right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We've got Brad Cornelsen here and be followed by Justin Hamilton. So, Andy, you want to start us off?
Yeah, Brad, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about Connor Blumrick and how he came to get here and kind of your scouting report on him.
Sure. We have a great contact, a couple of them on that staff, which was critical, in the evaluation and as far as us kind of moving forward with that. But was a really good high school player, good team. He's a bigger kid, got some length, size, athletic. Kind of went into that situation as a young guy, got behind a young starter. They tried him at H-back and tailback just to see if they could use him to get him on the field. He started on a couple special teams through the years, but ultimately, wanted to play quarterback and got his degree and wants to go make a run and finish up playing quarterback here for his last 2 years. So excited about him. He's here. He's here. He's working out. He's going to be a good fit for this team.
When we talked to Puente last week, he said he was sort of rejuvenated about playing quarterback. How difficult is it to evaluate somebody that hasn't sort of been all with that the last couple of years and trying different positions and stuff?
Yeah, it takes somebody from the inside that you trust, that has watched them every day for a few years. Having some practice film that we have, he didn't have a whole lot of game reps, so having that film, practice film, watching him throw, watching him do some different things, and then again, the biggest piece of that was those people that we trust, signing off that he's the right kind of guy and he's got the tools to play in this system and do what we're going to ask him to do.
Could you conceivably see him playing somewhere else if he's not on the field as a quarterback, or is he strictly just going to be a quarterback?
Well, he can. That's not the plan for him. It's full go. We got to get him ready to go play quarterback. He's got catching up to do. I'm glad he's here now. That always helps, as we know. But that's not the plan. But certainly he could.
Mike Nizilik.
Yeah, Brad. You guys got a lot of running backs, 12 scholarship running backs. I know some of them are working at wide receiver and things like that. But is that number just too high? Do you feel like there's a strategic reason behind having that many?
No, that's not ideal. Those when numbers get skewed by position, which happens, within the course of a program. It's not just an easy fix. So it takes time. It's been that way with just about every position at one time or another. So there's multiple reasons why and all those sorts of things. But we've got our numbers set and we always kind of work towards them. They're never ideal. You never have them exactly where you want them. But yeah, that number's definitely over of what we want and need, and we'll continue to work towards really where we want it to be.
And with at offensive tackle, you got Tenuta and Silas can work there. Who's kind of the guys behind that now that you're going to be working kind of in the spring at tackle?
Well, that's the position now that this spring that we're going to be pretty shallow. We're going to be a little bit short up front. We've got a couple of new guys in Darrell Bailey and Dan Milichik. Still young, still new guys that have the tools to do that. Those will be the main two guys that'll be getting the reps. We're going to have some false depth, if you will, going into the season at tackle, just because our inside guys are capable of moving outside if we need them to. From Hoffman to Lasitas. Of course, Silas has played both inside and out. We have some flexibility there with old, experienced, good football players that have practice and played a little bit on the edge and that gives us a little bit of kind of false depth.
Is Parker Clements working at tackle, or is he working at inside?
Yeah, Parker will definitely be on the edge. I mean, you know, he's going to have to be ready to step in and go win the job right now. He's capable of it. I mean, he's extremely talented. We really like everything about him. You know, as being in his first year still. I mean, he's got the ingredients to be a really, really good one, and he's still got a long ways to go, but he's got to have the mindset of he's got to go win a tackle job this spring, and he's certainly capable of doing that. But you know, between him and Silas on the edge, you got Tenuta, and then you got kind of those new young guys that we got to continue to bring on.
Thanks.
Norm?
Hey, Brad, are you comfortable with your quarterback room as is, or would you like to add another quarterback in there?
We feel pretty good about it. You know, we have Taj Bullock coming in as a true freshman this summer, which gets us to 4. I mean, our number is always, you know, 4 to 5. I think we have it set at 5, but it goes back and forth year to year just depending on where we're at. So, you know, part of the reason that Connor fit with what we needed was he is an older guy. You know, he's not a first or second year player coming in. So, you know, having Braxton back, Knox is kind of in between that. He's not new anymore, but he's not an older, experienced guy. So, bringing in an older guy to couple with Braxton, and then, you know, having Taj as another young guy coming in. So, I like that room a lot. So we'll see where we're at this spring and how those guys continue to come along.
I know we kind of live in an era where guys jump into transfer portal quite a bit. You've had quite a few quarterbacks over the years that have transferred, Bush and Jackson, Quincy and Hendon now. Is that concerning to you to not have as much continuity there as you might if you had guys sticking around, obviously? And is there a common thread between some of these guys transferring?
I'm not, you know, I would love to have everybody that we signed to come in here and stay for 5 years. You know, I think every coach would say that about every single position. So that's just not realistic anymore, you know, for us or anyone at any spot. So it's part of the culture now, I think, of what we're, you know, what we have to adjust to and the way we have to coach. You know, there's a 3-year, you know, a guy being here for 3 years as a quarterback. I talk openly to recruits about this, is that you need to commit somewhere for 3 years. You need to go be in the same system as a quarterback for 3 years. That's how you develop as a quarterback. And both of those guys did that, you know, and you saw both of those guys continue to take those steps as you know, 3rd and 4th year guys in the same system. And that's what it takes. It's alarming to me to see young quarterbacks commit somewhere, go somewhere, and in their 1st or 2nd year leave. That, to me, that's what's troubling. It's just really hard to develop in that position if you're doing that.
After the season, you said, let's kind of get away from everything, clear our minds of all this stuff, and move forward. Given any of the discussions that you had with Hendon and what you talked about with him after the season, were you surprised to see him leave?
Oh, I don't think we're surprised, you know, anymore with really any of our guys. I mean,
right.
Going into the season, knowing that we had 3 capable guys, probably what would happen is we would retain one and the 2 guys would go somewhere else. So that was definitely not a surprise to me at all.
Last thing for me, Johnny Jordan, you see him as I know he can play both, Shirley in the interior, but do you see him sort of more suited as a center or a guard? You know, he played an awful lot of center there.
Yeah, he's played center. I mean, that's where he's been. Well, I think he's going to be able to bring us some flexibility at those two positions, and potentially if Brock needs to move to ultimately up front, it always comes back to who are our 5 best football players and what's the combination to get those guys on the field. So that gives us not only some depth at the center position, but gives us some flexibility in there with those guys also.
Thanks, man.
Mike Barber.
Morning, Coach. Looking at Braxton, what are some of the things that you kind of tasked him with improving from last year to this coming season?
Yeah, there's a couple of really minor things, operationally, emotion here. Probably the biggest thing we've talked about that's pretty noticeable that we're working on is he has a tendency to take too much off of a throw at times, and it's usually when it's a shorter, maybe what he would consider a routine or an easy throw. He takes a little too much off of it, and it hurt a couple of throws early in the year. One of them was an interception, one of them was just an incompletion. But that's one thing about his game that coming off of the fall is something that should be really easy for him to concentrate on, and for us to be able to kind of move past that going into next season. Probably the next thing is just him having a full off season in the weight room and just becoming a durable, thick, strong. He's had the athleticism and the quickness and the speed of just putting it all together now. And I know that's something that we've talked about that he already had on his mind before we even talked about it. So.
Considering Connor's path and kind of getting away from quarterback a little bit, do you view him as coming in to kind of be the backup here? Is Braxton your starter? How do you view the pecking order?
Yeah, I mean, if we went out there and played right now, certainly Braxton would be the clear-cut guy. So Connor's got a lot of catching up to do. I love really the attitude of not just him, but that whole room going into it. He's going to be a great fit for that room. So, he is a different size, a little bit different athlete than Braxton. So with that always comes, there can be always a particular role for that, even if he's not playing every snap. So the mission right now is for him to get ready to play quarterback, and he's got to be all the effort and energy has got to be poured into that, of learning the system, getting as caught up as he can, and ready to go take reps at quarterback as he's competing for the starting job, and got to get himself ready to play game 1.
And how would you evaluate Braxton's development in terms of being a leader? Obviously, he came in and he did start early with Hendon's issue, and then Hendon kind of took over. Where is he in team leadership in that role?
He's been fantastic, and I know that's something that we've talked about, and that he's kind of came back from break already in that type of a mindset. It's always easier when the picture is a little bit more clear when you're coming back as the guy that has the most experience in that room. So I think both of those factors have resulted in already, early in this semester of what he's shown, which has been fantastic, from just what he's doing in the weight room and in conditioning, coupled with the leadership that he's already shown.
And if I could sneak in one off the quarterback track, Jaden Payet's a Richmond kid, 804 kid. Where is he at in terms of recovery, and what could his impact be for you?
Oh, we expect big things out of him. We're really excited about him. Hated to see that happen to him during fall camp, because he's just been a guy that's continually progressed, more than what most people probably would day to day as young players. But he's in good shape. He's on track. He'll get to do a little bit this spring, hopefully, but we don't anticipate him not being ready to go for fall.
Thank you.
Andrew?
Hey, Coach, I remember last time during signing day when we spoke, we didn't know if James Mitchell was coming back or not at all. What was that news like when you learned that Mitchell was coming back for the upcoming season?
Oh, awesome. You know, it's like signing a new player almost. You know, it's, you know, him along with a couple of other guys that, you know, we weren't sure about. So I think that was, you know, that was huge for us as a team, certainly offensively. You know, the at least, you know, 3, maybe 4 guys that were thinking about it and maybe could have went the other direction and didn't. And that's a huge lift, you know, for this team, for this offense going into the off season. You know, I think kind of creates a little bit of energy and you know, was certainly good to hear, like almost getting a new player.
What were kind of some of the conversations with him like? I mean, what did y'all have to do to convince him? Because, I mean, I know he had a third-round projections on a lot of mock drafts.
Oh, I mean, James is a really smart kid, and he's got a great family. You know, we certainly didn't talk him into it or you know, trick him into it. I mean, there were conversations, you know, between him and Coach Fuente and Coach Shebest. And you know, our mission there is just to lay out the best information that we can. You know, get him in touch with the people that we know in the NFL that you know are help making those decisions the best we can. Just to lay out the information, you know, and he knows what he means to this team and what we have coming back, and you know, all those things play a factor in it. But you know, he's a great kid from a great family, and you know, I think was doing his, you know, due process of looking into it and got the information, you know, that he wanted, that he needed, and he's pretty calculated in his thoughts and his decisions, and you know, that was the process.
Time for.
And I guess
Andy, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I had one more. I was just gonna ask too, what type of leadership role will James be playing on that offense this year too?
Well, he's one of the guys with the most experience. One of the best players we have on not only the offense but the team. He's got the experience. He's got the respect from his teammates. You know, he checks all the boxes. So, you know, personality by nature, James is a quiet guy, but you know, that's something that we'll continue to ask him to develop, and that's something that will naturally continue to increase is just that part of it, the leadership, you know, being vocal at times, and that's never easy for young men to do, you know, around their peers, but you know, that's something that Coach Fuente spends a lot of time on as a team, talking about those sort of things, and so he knows that's something that he needs to continue to do more of, and that this team needs him to do more of, and that's what we would expect him to do.
Andy?
Yeah, Brad, I think you have a couple of young receivers here who enrolled early, Jalen Jones and Dawan Lofton. What do you envision their roles in this offense, where you sort of imagine them lining up? And I know it's always hard to predict with young guys, but do you feel like those are two that maybe could get on the field pretty early?
Yeah, we're really excited about both of them. They're both here early and have looked really good. You know, I think they both could potentially be slot type guys before it's all said and done, and they both have enough length and size to be an outside guy. You know, I would compare them just kind of size wise to Tavion Robinson. In a similar situation coming in, like we weren't exactly sure if he was going to be a slot or an outside guy, and really he's done both. And getting those guys set in a spot going into spring and just let him go learn one thing, and let him learn the offense and get some reps and get comfortable playing, and then we'll reevaluate that after spring to see, to see where they have the best chance maybe to help us in the fall, as true freshmen. So it's hard to predict. Jalen's a little more developed, thicker guy right now, but day one has really shown the speed and the quickness, and he's been smooth, and man, everything he's done out there has looked really good also. So probably going into the spring, day one, we'll want him to know all the slot and get really comfortable in the slot. Jalen probably a little bit more outside going into it. There's crossover there, so whether they're going to go in primarily as a slot or an outside receiver, they're going to learn both as it moves along. So.
Thank you.
Mike Nislak?
Yeah, I had two other receivers. Changa comes back. Did you convince him? I mean, was that a conversation you had with him that said he could help himself coming back? And then I was curious about Tyree Saunders. Didn't play obviously last year. Where does he fit in kind of this spring?
Yeah, I mean, Shanga was one of those other guys that we wanted back. That Coach Williams did a good job of staying on him, and the same thing, just feed him information. Sometimes those guys lose sight of, particularly in Changa's case, was he comes in during fall camp. I mean, he didn't even start on time, so he's already behind. No spring ball, learning a new system, all the mess of the season with COVID, and giving himself a chance to really have an off season in this offense and go have a real final year, to put it all together, and understanding that man, he can play a big role for us, and it's really going to help him, maybe move on to where he wants to go at the next level. So, it was exciting news to get him back too, because we weren't sure on him, and he really started coming on towards the end of the year. So, really glad he made that decision. Yeah, Tyree and Dalen Wright, the two guys that'll be coming back as redshirt freshmen. This is a big spring for them. They've been here now for a fall and redshirted, so now is their kind of next opportunity to go kind of show us what they have. They've both been really good kids. I mean, they've both shown kind of different skill sets and what maybe ultimately they can be, but it's going to be a fun spring for those guys of being in the action. They get a little bit of taste of it early in fall camp, and when they're not in the mix and the season gets going, they're on the scout team. So this is always exciting for those type of guys that you get a chance. Now it's not brand new to them. Everything's not brand new to them, and now they're going to get that next opportunity to really progress and show us what they can do. But excited about both of those guys, and still a long ways to go with them, but certainly have seen things in both of those guys that we're encouraged about.
And I know you talked a lot about James Mitchell, but I was curious, when a guy like that comes back, a lot of the top tight ends last year kind of averaged closer to 6 touches a game. Do you try to say to him that we're going to try to get you the ball, as much as we can? I mean, I know that's kind of the goal anyway, but
Yeah.
do you really have to try to commit to saying, we're going to try to get it, get the ball in your hands no matter what, because, you want him to be able to showcase what he wants for the NFL.
Yeah, I think, just for us in our meetings, it's how are we going to continue to find more and better ways to get him the ball, and so he knows. That was part of the conversation, which I think he knows. I think he knew that in the fall that we're constantly trying to move him around and consciously get him the ball. It's not always easy. the defense doesn't always let you throw the ball to whoever you want to. So that's always the challenge of finding, who are, the playmakers, the guys that we feel like we need to make sure we're trying to get them the ball every single game. So yeah, that's certainly a part of it and part of the conversation. But he understands, he's a sharp kid. He understands the game. He understands that, we don't make promises to guys that, hey, you're going to get 10 touches a game, guaranteed. Like that's just not how the game works. So he knows how valuable he is to this offense, and that we're constantly trying to get him the balls.
Thanks.
All right, thank you, Coach. We'll have Coach Hamilton coming up here momentarily. Just stand by.